Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. All right. Are we live? Looks good. I will be live streaming today for about, maybe an hour. If we get an hour. We can hear Steve over there. He's barking. Probably barking at me, knowing Steve. All right, Steven. But, yep, we've got some, I guess major breaking news. And anytime you get breaking news in the drone world, it's usually something quite substantial. So here it is. This won't be the last time you hear it. I think Kai Friedrichsen and I, at Lone Star UAV, and I will probably hit this topic again on Tuesday. So anything that I fail to cover today, we can further discuss because I think it's definitely discussable. So it's, we knew it would eventually, these rulings are eventually coming to a point of decision. So today, the decision on remote ID came forward. And 107 pilots, everybody that flies a drone is going to have to be compliant with remote ID as it will be adopted. So the court fight, I think, is pretty much over. I don't see a circuit court of appeals getting overruled in this case because there was little doubt in the minds of the circuit court judge or justice as to the decision. So I'm going to flip it over to that the tweets that are coming through, and it says breaking. And let me see if I can find I have the actual document here. This is the decision that says for the District of Columbia Circuit, decided on July 29th, 2022. So I guess the question really is going to be, how is this going to affect me? And I'm going to show you a couple things that I noticed, and I've gotten quite a few. I've gotten quite a few recent. I've got quite requests by drone companies. So there's all these toy companies out there. You understand if you have to be compliant to remote ID. Now, drones like the Mini. Here, let me get the drones like the Mini 3 have built-in compliance. DJI has been, this is their bread and butter. They basically have built remote ID into their system already. So whatever remote ID becomes for, drones like this is already in there. So if you own a commercial drone of what I would consider to be substance, Mavic 3s, these all are going to have, are remote ID compliant already. They already have the inner workings built into them of whatever it's going to transpire into. So, and basically all it basically is saying is that there needs to be a geographic link between you and the drone, meaning that there needs to be a GPS coordinate for the drone and the GPS coordinate for the user. and that it's communicating and it has to have certain types of communication data. Okay, and that was the discussion point. So one of the things they talked about in here. But the big thing that came up in the court decision was it was all about the Fourth Amendment and and about privacy, the right to privacy, and those kinds of things. And basically, in a nutshell, this judge said, and he said it several times. He talked about what remote ID technology requires drones in flight to do. They emit publicly readable radio signals reflecting certain identifying information, including their serial number, location, and performance information. That's it. And the question was, is that information private? And it says that ID information is read by smartphones and similar devices using a downloadable application available to available to the FAA government entity. So the only people that remote ID who can read remote ID information, this is pretty interesting actually, is the federal government. And it actually says in the ruling and from the FAA that the only people that can and should enforce the remote ID compliance is the federal government, so the FAA. So it says local authorities have no jurisdiction over this. And it says in this ruling a couple of things I think are important. One is the FAA is basically going to govern the airspace, and that there's nobody that's telling the FAA how to do it. And so this is kind of a reformation of that, or not a reaffirming of that, not a reformation of that, and the fact that like for example, your local sheriff is not going to comply. He's not going to enforce remote ID because he's not going to have the information. So so really it gets down to, and Kai and I were talking about this. It gets down to the big stuff. The FAA doesn't want to deal with the little stuff. They want to deal with, to me, the big thing is airspace incursions. This is the big thing that if you see over and over and over again, it's and then of course the idea of privacy, and I'm going to get to the privacy issue because he's very specific as to why he's not going to comply or to discuss that. But let's see, Mark White, there's already a security system being used in most American towns that allows the authorities to see. Yeah, and that's okay. I don't mind. My problem is what do you have to hide? And I have nothing to hide from authorities. And I think that's where you get into where people get freaked out is like, well, I don't want people to read my stuff. Well, why do you care? But there's already ways to. But okay, so we're getting into legalities. What this ruling is saying is that information is only to be used in issues regarding the FAA or in basically the FAA holds jurisdiction over remote ID. And we'll see how local law enforcement. I think local law enforcement has a couple of issues. One is the privacy issue, and that gets to the point where they're just saying, "Hey, you respect that guy's privacy, and I'll respect, and then the person that feels like their rights are being imposed, you need to basically back off." That's where it gets down to that. If you want to fight your neighbor, that's really what it gets down to. And law enforcement will step in just like they do with any case. Let's see. So the theory of my neighbors will be able to download an app. No. Your neighbors will not be able to download an app, and they shouldn't be, because that's where the privacy issue basically would be picked up again. So this thing, you need to read this thing. Okay, I'm actually gonna put this up. You need to, if you care about your rights, and if you care about what the reality of this is, just read this document, and you will be. It's not that hard. Okay, it's not that hard to go through it. It's got a lot of pages, but you just have to be able to sift through it. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that URL, and I'm gonna put that. Hold on here, guys. I got to put that in my. Ooh man, that's the chick from the freaking phone. Ooh man, it's a hottie. They got some hot pictures of her. All right, so anyway, Okay, moving on here. I'm just getting my channel stuff up here. I just want to get to my. But I'm going to look through your comments, and I think the biggest thing right now is fear. Everybody's afraid of stuff they don't know. And I'm not the only one going to talk about it, but I went through the 40-page document. I went all the way to the very end, and I picked up what I saw was pertinent to you and me. Here, let me paste this here. This is the URL to that ruling. So let's see. In theory, would my neighbors be able to download it and app? No. It also means that if somebody else steals your drone and tries to use it, they can be found extremely easy. Well, you can find your own drone. Let's see. Yep, it will be available to the general public. Yeah, remote ID. No, the information shouldn't be available to the general public. Not from this ruling. It says that the only thing that will be available to the general public would be information. Here, we're actually gonna discuss this Tuesday, so I'm gonna keep my not for sure comments to the not for sure area. But let's just we'll whip through the document really quick here. I'm gonna get to I'm gonna skim it really quick with you guys. Okay. No, the whole point of privacy for the user and user privacy is that they don't get to use that information. Okay, now this is where now if you want to worry about something, this is what you got to worry about. First of all, a couple of people need to worry. One are FPV pilots. FPV does not have remote ID built into it. So if you fly FPV, which this ruling basically, is basically being brought to you by Tyler Brennan, Race Day Quads. I mean, this really affects him because all of their users have to have a module that is compliant with remote ID. So if they want to keep doing it, I mean, most of these guys are going to just say the hell with it, and they're just going to fly around, and there's going to be a lot of that. But it basically gets down to you're going to have a remote ID transmitter of some kind. To dictate or to identify you and the drone. Let's see the location of the aircraft and the pilot. That's what's going to be available. But it's not available to everybody. See, Maddie. That's if we look at the ruling. If you get, I wished I would have highlighted this stuff. When you get down to the privacy issues, and that's down here, he gets into the fact that once you're flying, first of all, you're not private when you're flying a drone. You're never private because you're usually in public. And one of the arguments was that I'm in my backyard and I'm flying. I am privately engaging in an activity, but it's in the air. So they're saying is that the thing makes noise. It's a drone, and you are publicly displaying basically it, and it's not a privacy issue. Let's see. This gets into detect and display information about it, man. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna get this thrown at us, and some of the. Let's see. The final rule was a logical outgrowth of the proposed rule. And now the big thing that Brennan asserts is the privacy issue. And he's basically, a couple of things that he brings up is the fact that he's saying that there wasn't enough time for people in the FPV hobby to become compliant. And what the judge is saying is no, there was an open forum on this. You were invited to discuss this. And that, let's see, first page of the ruling, second paragraph, starting in the second, we got system is that in place for the use of authorities actually gives flight path telemetry, what is the camera, Rona transmitting video, AW photos, etc. The question is it's public, it's not public information. So that's I think something that we're going to And what they're saying is that information it's receivable and retrievable, but it's only receivable and retrievable by people in authority, and they're saying that authority rests with the FAA. So that's the way I'm seeing it right now. But obviously, everybody and their mother is going to be looking at this document. But when you get into the the discussion that goes on between the judge and not really the discussion, the judge and his viewpoint of the case, he just is basically saying is that your information is already private or already public, just like you use your cell phone, you're giving away data all the time. And, that the intrusion on your life is no less than, and is no more than what you're already being intruded on with your phone, which a lot of people are not going to take to heart very well. They're not going to think that that's okay. Let's see, to comport with the APA's novice. Now, so this is where it gets into, okay, so FPV pilots, and this is where they're going to get pissed, is that they'll say, yeah, you can fly your FPV drones, but you're going to have to fly in a FPV area. You basically are going to be locked into a corral. And that's where you're going to get a lot of folks pissed because they're used to flying in bando buildings and they're used to flying on the top of water towers, and they're going to be subject to remote ID. And if they're not compliant with that, they're going to have to be in a corral. So you either have a module on your drone or you're in a corral, basically flying in an area that's been, basically, delegated to FPV. And I'm pissed about that because, first of all, we've spent a lot of time to get our FPV quads tiny. And to make them small, we thought that we were making it safer, I mean, to get hit with a freaking bug, going 60 miles an hour, it sucks, and you get a splat on your face if you rode a motorcycle. But now we're going to have to throw a remote ID module on it, or we have to fly inside of a restricted area. Now, is your backyard a restricted area? And what a lot of people are saying, from the trees down within my property line, is that area considered an area where I can fly my toy drone? Let me show you something really quick. I know I'm going through a ton of information, and you guys are not wrong. Okay, so if you're reading this document in a certain way and you're seeing it in a certain way, obviously, like I said, we're gonna come back to this on Tuesday. I just wanted to throw out what I got and what I've kind of brought from it. So, and at the very end, I think this says it all right here. In conclusion, for all these reasons, we deny the petition for review. So if you really want to know anything about this, and about remote ID, there it is right there. There's your conclusion. For all those reasons, we deny you. Let's see. I obviously, guys, I went through this pretty quickly. Okay, here are the arguments that Brennan, he says that Brennan contends that the FAA did not adequately respond to the comments questioning safety rationale for the rule. So he's saying that he wasn't given enough time. And you could argue that is true because, these are some things that really need to be hammered out. But okay, what's the FAA's ruling going to be as a result of the module? The FAA is still going to determine how those modules are going to be used, who's going to need them, how they're going to be applied to whatever and however they're applied to. So, I'd be pissed to hope, I'd be pissed too, hope not in Canada. Sudbury drones, what happens in this house will happen in all houses. So whatever is happening in America is going to be happening all around the world when it comes to remote ID and issues of drones, because sadly enough, the United States tends to lead we drag along because our system takes a much longer time to basically iron out these issues. But everywhere there's going to be some way, shape, or form of this, and in some places there already are. So if you're, in a lot of places in Europe, there's already areas that have literally been, been basically taken off the map. But okay, so let's go backwards a little bit. Remote ID is here. It's going to be officially, I believe, enacted and enforced on January 1st of 2023. So this coming year, it's supposed to be. So this thing right here. I'm gonna go. Let me get my. Let me get Big Dog out here. I'm getting ready for throwing cameras on it. I'm getting ready to throw the Action 2 on here. I've been printing out different housings so I can get my Action 2 camera on the the 6-inch. But this 6-inch is going to have remote ID, and it's going to have all those things that the FAA requires. It's going to have its own identifying number. This thing's going to have to be registered just like any other drone because of its weight. Now, sub 250 drones, do they have to have remote ID? Yeah. I don't see why not. If you're making everybody else have remote ID, why not sub 250? Just because you don't have to have, well, if you don't have to have, that'll be an interesting conversation. But toy manufacturers say, just be thankful we're not in Japan. Restrictions are far worse. And if we get into if we get into like the toy drone area, you're going to notice that prices are really right now. There's a fire sale kind of going on with a lot of different drones. I was just looking through a lot of the toy drone manufacturers. I deal with these guys right here, Ruko. They're all going sub 250. Does a sub 250 drone? It has to comply with the law, but does it have to comply with remote ID? So if you're under 250, that would be, and now if that'll be a good question that we'll have answered. Hopefully by Tuesday. I think that's where the discussion lies. So where does sub 250 fit in with the new drone restrictions? Because be quite honest, I can fly the little bumblebee of a FPV quad, pretty damn high and pretty damn far. So where does that set? Let's get back into some of the arguments. So it basically boils down to that. It says comments arguing that recreational drones have thus far caused few documented harms and that remote ID requirements have created rather than resolved safety risks to drone pilots. I can't say that making things safer is creating risk. But Brennan acknowledges the agency's response to comments objecting that identification of drone pilots' location during flight can facilitate assaults. Yes, that I believe this stuff here, and I think the court case kind of it deals or it takes into consideration. It says the information is the FAA's for investigative purposes. It is not publicly available to anybody. It is just something that is going to exist in data. The data is not going to be sold and it's not going to be shared. And that's what they're saying, okay? But they want the data to exist. They want it to be there for investigative purposes, just like for when they investigate an air crash for a 747. Let's see. So they're going to get into what constitutes a remote ID, which is, and they did it at the very beginning. Let's see. Rule exceeds agency statute. This is what he's saying. It exceeds their statutory authority that they can't delegate. If they can't determine what I would consider, what is an infringement of your rights and your freedom your freedom's basically to remain anonymous if you want to be. Your information, shouldn't be shared. See, finally, Brennan accuses the agency of failing to heed significant critical comments. And this is where you get into the comment time period, that it was too fast. I think, why are we in such a hurry to have, and you can say that a year is not a hurry or 2 years is not a hurry, but while he was fighting this battle in court, he should have been in communication with the FAA in a also, you could say, in a constructive way. So we're going to fight this battle out for privacy, but if we have to go to remote ID, how is it? What shape, way, and form is that remote ID going to come? Okay, in what format are we going to have to basically comply with it? And I think he did. I think he was basically betting the farm on his business because it's going to be affected. So um, let's see. I'm going to see if I can find the Aviation Rulemaking Committee never considered even mentioned the concept of ID area as an option for remote ID compliance. ID area. So he's basically saying that they had an idea and that you could have remote ID areas. So this is this. I think that isn't that what let's see, it's the end of the final ruling. A person who operate an unmanned aircraft lacking remote identification may only at a specific FAA recognized identification area. So there it is right there. Okay, so there it is. That's the answer to the under 250. That's it right there. Right now, that's, I think, the rule that we're sitting with. If somebody can argue this and tell me that this one is not, because this is very ambiguous, and I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people are angry about, is that a lot of these things are arguable. You can get in a room and argue what it means to be VLOS. What does it mean to be via online site? You say, well, you can't see it. What does it mean, command of the airspace? This was basically saying is under the final rule, a person may operate an unmanned aircraft lacking remote identification, but it must be in a specific FAA recognized identification, or these little areas that pop up as NOTAMs on the let me see if I've got my use my sky vector. Okay, these are all drone operation areas, and I'm just going to see if here droneums, what they call them, droneums, right there. This is aerial demonstrations effect. So these are all TFRs. These are flight restrictions. These orange circles. But they also have droneums. Let's see, droneums they call them. Show all droneums. So I'm going to show here. So these are droneums, drone operation areas right here. And this, it says UAS operations prohibited. So this is basically saying you can't operate a drone in this area. But we also have to have temporary flight restriction droneums. We also have to have areas where you can, and those are also usually. Let's see. So I'll have to get back into my chart reading. It's been a while, but I love these charts. I mean, they're very helpful if you want to know. Let's see, flight hazard effective. But this is Sky Vector. If you have not, here, let me put Sky Vector up there for you guys that haven't used it. I'm going to go and put that in here, paste that in there. But Sky Vector shows areas where you should avoid. Okay, so if you're in an area, and this is where I think there was that the Ken Heron issue that came up where the guy was flying over the top of the SpaceX rockets and stuff like that. This will tell you if there's a temporary flight restriction. Or there's something that you're operating over. Now the let's see, I'm trying to look at operation prohibited. These are all prohibited areas. Why isn't that enough? I mean, think about that. Why can't this be enough? Why can't you just be able to go and say, okay, I'm restricted. I can't fly here, but I can fly other places. Because everybody understands this. This is the US. Okay, these are my UAS operating areas right here. So these are the areas that that are, it says UAS operating area. These are, it says surface to 50 AGL. So this is telling you that this area is set up right now, or is, and it tells you for valid for 4 days. This is what the FAA wants us to have. But this is going to be specific to your drone. Okay. So if you're not familiar with Sky Vector, you need to get your freaking butt into Sky Vector, and this will help that. So if you happen to be in this area and you're I guess technically you wouldn't be allowed to fly in there because unless that area is designated, well, no, that's not true. You could fly there because that area is designated by by other pilots in the area that there are drones there that are operating to 50 feet. So 0 to 50. That's not very high, by the way. So, but that area right there. Okay, so that's what these little purple areas are. These are all different areas that are. Let's see. This is surface to 25 AGL. Oh my God, 25 feet. Oh my Lord. What can you fly in 25 feet? I guess if you're doing a real estate shoot and you're within a, in a, this is a magenta, let's see, Sierra Field. Yeah, but this area here is yeah, let's see, 4,300. So this is this airport here in the vicinity, weather stage. Yeah, I want to see if that's a controlled AWAS. I'd have to go look. I'd have to do a little more studying. But these little purple spots are areas that you can operate a drone safely. So anyway, so that's where we're basically, look at that. Look, there we go. We've got all kinds of stuff going on here. But a lot of questions, here's an area that I'm really familiar with. Here, let me go to one that I fly in occasionally. This area right here. This area I fly in. My dad lives in this area here, so I have to fly underneath. But this basically says that you've got basically 1,800-foot ceiling. There's a 1,700-foot ceiling, and this just basically tells you, hey, you can't fly. But I can't fly over. I can't fly. It's just I can't fly higher than that anyway. I can't fly higher than 400 feet. But this is just areas that basically look like they're nasty. They look scary, but they're really not scary. This area in here, I fly in. Let's see, 1287. This is 1,700 feet, and it depends on where I'm at. I'm usually on this side of the blue line. So this is basically an approach to the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. There's always aircraft in the area, so if you're freaked out about that, you can fly there, but you have to stay below a certain altitude. And it basically says that if you're over here, it's 1,700, and I'd have to go around and look at the other side here. So those are basically aircraft approaching. But let's see, are there any drone related areas here? Looking there, we got unpowered aircraft. Anyway, check this out. Operating, let's see, UAS operating here. Here's a couple right here. Here's a couple of UAS operation areas right over here. And you can see it's underneath this airport. This is a Class B airspace, so it's very busy. And it just basically, so let's see, what are our operational altitudes here? But, a lot of people ask me, is it worthwhile taking 107 and becoming 107 certified? Hell yeah. You get to understand this stuff. It's not scary. What's this, 1,900, 1,600. So if you're below, there's the ceiling there. There's flying clouds. You got a bunch of airports there. But these areas here, let's see, this is the 250 AGL. So if you're within that area, and this one's the 250. So there's basically drones operating over these lakes here. So anyway, so fun stuff. I thought that the maps, when it said 53, it meant 5,000. They missed the twin zero is off. Well, I look at this number right here. Okay, you see this one? Basically, that's the 70,000 to 100,000. And this is, or 7,000 to 10,000. Sorry, that's 7 to 10,000. And this is the ceiling. So these aircraft basically are above 1,600. Okay. So you can basically operate underneath this number here. And anytime you see that, that's freaking high. But anyway, let's see here, 2,600. But this is an approach here. Aircraft are always coming in this area. 1,800, and you can see it goes down 1,700, so it goes down 1,000 feet as it approaches the Class B restriction. And so let's see here, 2,400. So a lot of activity going on. But see, so right here, so I think what helps you guys is DROTMs. Go to SkyVector. Let's see, pilot reports. I have no idea what those are. Let's see. There's stuff in here. No turbulence. Oh, that's kind of cool. Just tells you the air. Let's see, light chop. That's cool. So these are pilot reports. These are commercial pilot reports telling you what the air is like in those areas. Temporary flight. Let's see, text weather. Let's see, navigation. Those are navigational lines if you want those. If you want the navigational tracks. It'll basically show those, which are kind of cool. Group, let's see, weather. So there's a lot of stuff. But as a drone pilot, you just want to know what the circles mean. And like I said, it can be kind of freaky in an area like this, you know. Now, if you're within this area right here, if you're within, say you're within an area that's you're within the restricted zone. So if you go into like this area right here, do you have to have LANC certificate? Yeah, you should have yourself. You should be LANC approved to fly in this area right here because it's to surface. So anything that you do in this area is from surface. Now, if this airport is not controlled, meaning that they don't have a control tower, then you basically are supposed to have a radio on you, that kind of stuff. But then you can operate in there like any other aircraft, and it's visual rules, flight rules. But you should also probably have a LANC authorization. Not probably, you just should. It's just good practice because how hard is it to do that? But anyway, check that out. Check out SkyVector. Let's see. I thought that the map said 53. It meant, yeah, 53 is 5,300. And that's 10,000 to 4,000. That's the air quarter. It goes as high as to 10,000 and it goes to 4,000. But on these approaches, like right here, that's your ceiling, and that's, you know, for anybody flying, you know, aircraft that want to stay outside of the approach to Minneapolis, St. Paul, they need to be no lower than 1,700 or under 1,700. So they're outside of the approach, because the aircraft coming in through here are big. These are freaking, you know, aircraft flying in at, you know, big monsters coming in. Okay, I'm probably just screwing that all up. It's been a while since I've looked at these charts, but they're very helpful. Anyway, but remember DROTMs, and then look at, you know, check these boxes, and then look for the colored circles. Okay, it says UAS operating area. That's what you're looking for. Okay, UAS operating. All right. Okay, getting back to the FAA. Let's turn this thing off. Let's get back to our ruling. So yes, remote ID. How can I become compliant? You can be 107 certified. You can get your operating certificate. Just get on FAA.gov. Every one of your drones that is above 250 grams needs to have an FAA ID. If you're a 107 pilot, it's every drone. So even if if you're not a 107 pilot and you're just flying for fun, you don't have to register this thing. I do. So I have to register this thing. It doesn't matter. Everything that I fly that's commercial has to have its own number. So so technically when I'm flying an FPV quad and I stick a video up, yep. Does everybody do that? I'm sure they do. But that's where you get into this crazy stuff. Now, what are they going to, when, how is this going to, how does this ID thing, first of all, everybody's going to talk about it first. So let's wait a couple of weeks. We've got till January for people to hammer this thing out. So let's wait. Let's not freak out. And remember, it's not scary yet. We're still trying to, now that we know that we have to have a remote ID, and that's what this is saying, we now have to move forward. We have to move forward into compliance. So that's kind of where we stand. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can find any other. Let's see. Brennan's contention that the proposed rule gave no notice of the radio broadcast module option, and the final rule also fails. Under the rule, owners of drones incapable of broadcasting. This is where you get into FPV pilots, fixed wing pilots without requisite remote ID message who wish to fly their drones outdoors outside of an FAA recognized identifier area may do so by retrofitting their drones with broadcast modules to meet the remote ID requirements. So this is where you get into the little FPV pilots that want to put their video up. That has to have a module. He was basically saying is that he insists that he lacked the chance to voice concerns that broadcast module would cause radio interference. So you've got the issue of the airwaves again with certain types of equipment that would negatively affect its use. So this is where you're getting that one argument. Judge is saying, well, you should have been talking to the FAA about that, and not the court. The FAA is saying, hey, this is what we want you to do. We want you to be compliant with remote ID. We're going to move forward with this. This is what the FAA said. Digital license plate. We want you to have a digital license plate. Okay. And then they say, well, what does that digital license plate do? And then the FAA says, well, we've talked about it. It needs to be able to tell you who you are. It needs to tell you where the drone is, what its attitude is, what the aircraft status is, that all kind of that stuff. So, all right, I think I'm going in circles here. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about a little bit of Chinese rockets. I thought that would be kind of fun. So anyway, Tuesday, guys, we're coming back to this. We're going to be talking about it. The UK, we have a flyer's ID and an operator's ID. They are valid for every drone we have. You have to put your operator ID in each drone. Right, that's what we do. And what there's, and if you're a commercial operator, you need to be compliant with all of your commercial drones. So, if I'm flying for fun, I'm not monetizing a video, or are you monetizing a video? Autocorrect. So anyway, we're getting there, guys. This is boring stuff, but it's stuff that we're going to have to be involved in. We need to know it. We need to know that stuff. Most recently, Chinese rocket. Okay, this is not the first time this has happened. So we talk about remote ID. Well, this rocket here, they're saying, well, where we put a 5,000 ton rocket into orbit. Here is basically its part of it. I don't know if that's a fuel tank or something. And this thing here is starting to heat up. It's coming into the atmosphere, and it's going to it's not going to hit any populated areas. But the thing is that we schedule and we identify, hey, we have a rocket going up, and this is where it's coming down. And the Chinese don't like to tell people that. I think they like to put a lot of stuff. There's their what they call their Long March rocket. very big. This thing is basically the size of a Saturn V. It's pretty big. And they're putting probably military satellites up. They're putting a lot of stuff. They could be launching more. And they might be doing their version of Starlink. We don't know. But they also use these big rockets for their moon program. But this is the piece that's falling back to Earth right here. I thought that'd be kind of interesting for us to kind of, so that thing right there. Here, let me change that so you can see it. Let's go right there. So this thing right there. And then more than likely it's a fuel cell. There's a lot of really crazy crap that we stick up into space, and that stuff is pretty dangerous. And this one, like I said, it's just supposed to fly and supposed to cruise in, but the Chinese just don't like to tell anybody much about what they're up to. Here's another. Here's it says rocket uncontrolled return. This basically shows, I think this is the one that shows the trajectory. Just gives you an idea. The payload, 22 tons. It's a heavy lift. Let's see. Total length, 53.7 meters. But this is the rocket in question. And where is the trajectories? Let's see. Global. Let's see. Oh, this one, it says carrying different elements of the Tiangong. This is their version of the space station. So it says on both occasions, debris from the rocket's core stage were dumped back on the Earth in Ivory Coast on the Indian Ocean. These followed a prototype that crashed into the Pacific Ocean back in 2018. None of these incidents caused injury, but did garner criticism from a range of space agencies on Tuesday. Chinese state-run newspaper Global Times accused Western media of a U.S.-led smear campaign against the Long March 5. So this was their question. Is the latest launch carried the second of 3 modules of the Chinese space station. And they're just putting the space station up there, you know. I'm just flying over a field with my FPV drone, you know. So, here it is right here. This is our latest prediction for the CZ-5B rocket body reentry. Will be along one of the ground tracks shown here. It's still too early to determine, so we don't know. But this is an image of their tracking right there. So that is what they're looking at, and it's basically, doing it looks like it's going around the equator. It's an equatorial, I think that's an equatorial, basically, pathway. But this is the path that it's following, and it could land anywhere here. So it doesn't look like it's going over Australia. It looks like it'll hit Africa if it hits anything. Look at that. If it does, it looks like it's going to go over Mexico, maybe the Yucatan, Florida. So if it does F up, it looks like Florida is the only part of the United States that's going to nail. So you guys up in central, the Tampa Bay area up there, I don't know, up in northern Florida, you guys look up for Chinese rockets. So, so Maddie Drone World, there it is. CZ-5B is on its way to Florida. So let's see. Mark White, he's talking about the $10 per year. We register each drone. It costs us $5, and I think the registration lasts for 2 years. I'll have to go and look at that. I'll have to go to the drone zone. I can. Here, let me just go to the drone zone here. Let's see. I don't know why I don't have that on a. Let's see. FAA drone zone. Oh, let's make sure. Let's see. 107 compliance register. I already got an account. Let's see. Let's put Dad Random in there. Wait a second. Confirm password. Oh, I already have an FA. I don't know. Maybe it's in another. It's not connected to this one. So but anyways, I'll go and check that out. Talk a little bit about that. Like I said, Tuesday we're going to be hitting the issues that are going to come up in all the different streams on their ways. I told you I didn't want to go on more than an hour. But you guys in Florida, here it is right there. There is the Chinese, looks like fuel tank. It's going to land in central Florida. So look up, keep your head about you, because you never know. you could be hit by a Chinese rocket very soon. Alrighty. All right, guys, we are going to bring this show to a slow conclusion. Let's see if we can find some music for us to leave on here. There's my intro playlist. That's one of my. There we go. You guys hear that? That was my intro for a while ago. Here, let's put Dreamy Flight on. Let's put some quiet stuff on here. We're gonna do mood music. This is kind of a fun one right here. Let's do that. But this is Epidemic Sound, so if you're interested, give it a shot. I do have it a link in the description. There we go. That's a good one. That's kind of a nice dreamy out. All right, guys. What and where this is going to lead us, we know it's leading us to remote ID. We know now that we have an official ruling by the FAA. We have a circuit court appeals court, the DC Circuit, and it is basically saying that is where it's going to go. And now we have till January to figure out what it's going to look like. So, and we'll probably get a period of time to figure out how that is going to apply to the drones that we own. The toy industry, don't have a clue. But I'm out of here, guys. Later.